Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Military Money Mistakes Live. I'm Trevor Maxwell, creator of Military Money Mistakes, and just wanted to send a quick thank you out there to everybody who's participated in this so far, attended these live events, and shown interest in joining the beta cohort for the Military Money Mistakes Coaching Program. Speaking of which, if you are interested in getting involved in that in the beta cohort, I have the comments. I put the link in the comments below. Uh, Really, what I'm looking for is some folks to come in, sit through these live events with me inside of our insiders portal, and sit through the classes. If they can't watch it live, no big deal. We'll put recordings in there. You can watch that and give me some feedback. And the benefit to you is that you're going to get access to everything that I do with that for the rest of your life, or mine, or however long Military Money Mistakes is around. But I'm hoping that is a very long time. So if you are interested, please hop in there and click on that link, set up a call, and we'll chat to see if that's a good fit for you. One other thing too, I threw another invite in there for the U.S. Vet Wealth Insiders portal. Very cool thing that Scott Tucker and I have been working on, and I wanted to share this with you guys really quick. Something that we've been doing for a while now. Scott's been working on it. Kind of a way for you to get a lot of the information about the questions that you have, and not have all the distractions of a standard social media platform. So it's our own internal thing. Military Money Mistakes will be hosted in there, and additionally, on top of excuse me, today's topic, the TSP rollover guide. So I had written a TSP rollover guide a while back, and kind of like an ebook. That is in here. You can go in there, access that, check it out. So the link is in the comments. Feel free to click on that, get in there, check it out, set up a profile. I still got to set mine up too, so don't hate me. Yeah, so on to today's topic. What do I do with my TSP when I retire from the military? It's probably the second most asked question that we get after, is survivor benefit plan a good deal for me? So I get a lot of people reach out to me and say, hey, you seem like you're kind of the person to talk to about this. Can you help me with the TSP issue as well? Absolutely. I mean, that's like I said, that's the second biggest question that we help people make a decision about, and that's put emphasis on that, making a decision about this, figuring out what to do. One of the problems with that, and I think the same thing too, as I talk about survivor benefit plan, I don't think they give enough due diligence to the alternatives to those, right? So anybody who's sat through the brief has heard the same spiel. They have, for the Navy, we had Fleet and Family Services. They come in, they had somebody who's a counselor. I think Our Lady called herself an advisor. As I would come to, work in the industry and become an advisor myself, like I would realize, oh, she wasn't really an advisor. That's a little bit misleading there. But, they all say the same thing. Well, you can just leave it in TSP because it has low fees. Oh, okay, yeah. Unfortunately, that's some advice that maybe isn't the best for you, especially over the last year and a half. Anybody who's watched their TSP lose 20 or 30%, I couldn't tell you last year and how many people were like, hey, should I, what should I do here? So I'm trying to take a proactive approach with that. We wrote the ebook, the TSP, the Ultimate Guide to TSP Rollovers. We're talking about it in here, and it's actually going to be part of the Military Money Mistakes curriculum, where we go in there and we're just creating a ton of information, and hopefully you digest it and come away with a better informed perspective, and you can make a well-informed decision. So yeah, that was the advice that they said, oh, just leave it in a TSP because it has the lowest fees. Well, you're only addressing like one of the risks that's involved in that decision. And so, I think it's important that you kind of look at the other risks that are involved in this, and I'm going to talk through those real quick, and we'll talk about the options and what risks are associated with your various options. So first and foremost, principal protection. It's probably the one that's at the the forefront of everybody's minds right now, because everybody's watched, unless you were in the G fund, good on you if you were in the G fund and it didn't do anything. Um, Principal protection, right? The market goes down. It's been down for a while. I've been watching it. Nobody knows what's going to happen tomorrow. If they do, if they tell you they do, they're full of it. So don't listen to them. But yeah, especially when we're talking about retirement funds, and especially for those individuals that are, 60 years old, you're not so much worried about aggressive growth anymore. You want to start protecting that, whatever it is that you've saved up over the last 20, 30, 40 years. So principal protection, very important, especially, when you get to the point where you're living off of that. Us in the military, we have an advantage of having, military retirees having a pension and VA disability, so that, it lessens the blow to us because we already have some income that we can count on. Social Security, nobody knows what's going to happen. I think I had released a post, like a paper from the Central Budgeting Office, that they projected that the Social Security reserves are going to be depleted by 2034 or 2035. So what does that mean? Well, right now, based off of income tax or the money that the U.S. government is bringing in, they can fund about 75% of the Social Security benefits. The rest of that is coming from the Social Security reserve. Well, when that gets depleted, there's not going to be anywhere else that they can get more money to continue to fund Social Security at its current levels. What does that mean? Well, they're probably going to either have to do one or two things. They're going to have to double taxes or cut benefits. And so next week, actually, throw a plug in there for that. We're going to talk about one of my favorite books about personal finance that maybe you've never heard of, The Power of Zero, written by David McKnight. Huge influence on me and my career. So we're going to go through some of the key points in that book next week. But second thing, growth opportunity. Obviously, this is our retirement funds. If I'm 40 years old and I have $100,000 or $200,000 in my TSP, am I going to be able to fund my retirement with that? No. So obviously, I want to be able to grow that money. So we want, wherever we put our money, we want to be able to continue to grow it. So there has to be some opportunity for growth. Fees, obviously, fees are a part of the discussion, and I talk about this all the time. Every 1% of fees will cost you about 20% of potential savings over a 20-year period. So the more fees that you have, the less potential money that you're going to have when it comes time for you to start living off of that retirement. Guaranteed lifetime income. So that's a big one. There's a big fear that people will run out of money in retirement, especially now. Pensions have started to go away, especially even in the military. The people that are under the blended retirement system, they are going to be, excuse me, they're going to be receiving a reduced pension. I don't know what's going to happen to VA disability compensation rates in the future, but I'm not hedging all my bets on that. So, I want to make sure that I set myself up to where I have guaranteed, no matter what happens, I will always have some income, so I don't run out of money in the future, because that is a very real possibility. I'm working on an article that I'm writing right now that talks about that. And it's pretty surprising when you look at that, the percentage of people who have a pretty good chance of running out of money in retirement. Like, could you imagine being 80 years old and all my retirement accounts are depleted? So definitely want to make sure that we have that continued contribution. So that is something to consider. This is the whole point of military money mistakes. When you get out, when you retire, you're going to probably, most of you are going to go out and get another job. On top of that, you're now going to be making probably twice as much money as you've ever made in your life. So you've got a tremendous opportunity right here at a key moment in your life to do something great for yourself, to set yourself up to be successful. Because if you're depending on the government to be able to take care of you when you get older, I feel like 20 years from now, you're going to be severely disappointed. That's just kind of the trend that we've been going to over the last 20 or 30 years, where more and more of the onus, as we used to say, of funding your retirement and taking care of you and your spouse in your golden years is going to be put on you. So you'll want to make sure that you can do that. Continued contributions. Can I still put money into this account whenever, in my next career, or can I start a new account and continue contributions to that? Because obviously continuing to save over time, compounding interest, all that good stuff, that's how we build, something that will support us for the rest of our lives over the next 10 to 20, 30 years. For me, I don't know that I'll ever retire. I feel like I'll always have to keep doing something. So even if it's just own a trailer park or work at Lowe's or something like that. So surrender charges. So that's a big one, especially when we talk about one of the options that I'm going to talk about today. Surrender charge is basically, if you get out of an investment too quickly, how much of that money do you get to keep, right? Because some of these things require a certain level of qualification, and that costs money to do that. And so if you pull out of these investments too early, there's a surrender charge involved. And there's different, there's another one too, a vesting schedule. We'll probably talk about that when we go through some of the options for your TSP. But, we want to make sure that if we are going to move investments from one to the other, there's what we call a suitability standard there. Like, hey, is this the best move for this person with these funds? Are they going to be able to transfer all of their money out of this account? So that's something that we want to take into consideration as well. And so without any further ado, we will get into these are kind of the four main options. I'm not going to get crazy and go into self-directed IRAs or anything like that. I'm going to keep it simple because honestly, within the three standard deviations where the majority of the population lives, this is probably going to be one of the things that you're going to choose for yourself after you retire. So first and foremost, leave it in the TSP. Oh, it's got low fees. Well, yeah, that's great. But the reason that the fees are low is because there's no real management in there. It's just BlackRock putting it in a fund. The C fund tracks the S&P 500. The S fund tracks the Russell 2000. The I fund tracks the the Morgan Stanley. It's the MSCI EAFE is the name of the actual fund that it's tracking. So they throw it in there. They're not doing anything. Yeah, they incur some administrative expenses, but that's the reason they're able to keep it so low. There's no active management in there. The way that gets managed actively, or you throw it into a life cycle fund and it's managed by an algorithm. So every year it gets a little bit more conservative as you get closer and closer to your retirement date. Any kind of active management, as they say, inside those accounts is done by you when you change the allocations of the funds inside that account. So if you go from C fund to G fund or whatever, like that's really about the most active that it gets. One of the benefits of the TSP, sorry, I have a little bit of the crud today. There is an option to do the guaranteed lifetime income. You can choose the annuity option where they will give you a guaranteed income stream for life. And that's not to say that there's not some downsides to that. One of the things with that is that the increase can never be greater than 2% from year to year. So think about last year, inflation was 8.7%. You set up this lifetime income stream, the greatest. I'll have to go check and make sure it's the same for 2023. But as of 2022, the most your income would ever increase was 2%, right? We had I think the official numbers were 8.7% in inflation. So you're losing 6.7% there because the greatest increase you could do was 2%. So that's another worry that you might have. Like, is this income? Because here's the thing, like people always talk about, oh yeah, we have income, we have this. Well, that's great, but is the income going to be enough? Especially when we get older and we start needing things like long-term care, or our spouse does, or something like that. That's people don't really address that stuff until they're like 60 years old. Then it's kind of, think of it as a funnel, right? As you get closer and closer and closer to the end of the funnel, your maneuverability is severely limited, right? So a lot of people say, well, I don't need to worry about this stuff right now. And I'm like, yes, but if you set it up right now, you're going to have the ability to make a lot more changes as time goes on, and you'll be able to greatly increase your optionality as you start to go through everything. So TSP, yeah, does it grow? Yes, absolutely. Obviously, it's tied to the market. However, when the market is down, there's no principal protection. Like I said at the beginning of this, I've been talking to people all year. Hey, what should I do with my TSP? It's down, down, down. Well, one benefit that you have while it's down and you're still able to contribute is that you're putting money in there while the market is down. So you're effectively buying low. So people who have been just kind of doing that, if you're familiar with the term dollar cost averaging, it's basically where you just put a certain amount of money in every month. Sometimes the market will be high, sometimes it'll be low, but over time, it'll kind of balance out somewhere there in the middle. Right now, uh, yes. Hey, Sierra, I just saw your comment. Yes, this will be recorded. I'll have it. All these go on my YouTube channel as well, and so I'll start posting links to those in the Military Money Mistakes page on LinkedIn. And Sierra, also, hey, I think you're already retired, but you're more than welcome too if you want to check out the beta cohort, because I'm actually looking for some folks who have recently retired as well to kind of reflect on their time going through the process and give me some feedback on that. Um so what we were talking about, oh yeah, being able to make contributions while you're still in. Well, part of the problem is if you leave that in the TSP and you don't go to a federal job after you get out, now you've also lost the advantage of being able to make contributions when the market's down and your funds are taking a dip, right? So this is the whole, how much of a return do you need to get to return from a loss, right? So a 10% loss requires an 11% return. A 20% loss requires a 25% return. A 30% loss requires a 43% return. So the further you go, the bigger that delta gets between what your loss was and how big of a return you need in order to get back to where you were when you started. So that's why I harp so much on the principal protection, especially if you're getting out and you're not going to put it into another plan where you can continue to make contributions. In my opinion, the low fees don't necessarily justify like the fact that you're still subjecting it to a bunch of other risks. Yes, I could throw it in a G fund, but guess what? Now, if the market starts to come back up, I'm not going to experience any of that growth. So with every one of these options, there's always some give and take, right? There's no perfect thing. It's just figuring out what the best option for you is. Second option, 401k, 403b, 457, the employer sponsored plans out in the civilian world, or some of you go back and do the GS route. Well, guess what? Now you can take and this is something that I think is important because some people don't understand this. When you retire out of the military, you will have to roll if you go get a federal job, you'll have to transfer your money from your military TSP to your federal TSP account. A lot of folks don't know that, but hopefully, if you have a good HR person, they should tell you that, especially if they know that you're retired military. So make sure you ask that question. Hey, how do I start with this? So those accounts are good, especially, the government TSP, the federal government uses the TSP, which has the same low fees. They still do the 5% match. Same funds, simple, it's easy. A lot of folks like to do that. um, However, when we get into the civilian plans, remember when we were talking about the fees, typically, so if you know the story behind 401ks, it used to be that the employers would pay the fees. And there was an incentive for all these providers, these people that sponsored these plans, to keep the fees low because they wanted to get the business. Well, eventually, somebody there at the investment companies, whatever, got the bright idea, and they said, "Hey, you know what? You don't have to pay these fees as the employer. You can have your employees pay the fees." And the employer said, "Oh, okay." Well, that kind of gave them free reign to say, "Okay, now we can make these fees a little higher." Um, and so it got out of control for a while. There was people that were paying like 3.5, 4.5% on some of these 401ks, the fees. Remember what we said, every 1% of fees over a 20-year period can cost you 20% of your potential savings. So, it's gotten a lot better. They're starting to get more competitive. Again, the marketplace is kind of evened out. However, still typically 401ks have some of the higher fees out there. Um, I think the average right now, the national average, the last time I looked, which was about 6 months ago, was about 2.25% on assets under management. So, Earl, sign up for your company's 401k. Again, I'm not against that. I love that, especially if they give the match. One thing I would also recommend too, looking to see what your options are if you have a Roth, the option to contribute to a Roth account versus a traditional account. We'll talk about next week. We'll get a little heavier into the tax conversation and where that's going here in the future. I'll give you a little spoiler. I don't think it's getting better than it is right now. That's my personal opinion. I've read a lot of stuff from people that are way smarter than me that kind of back that up. So, yeah, that's my perspective on that. So 401k, great. Yeah, you get the match. Obviously, just understand, like, if you do make those Roth contributions, also your employer can't contribute to your Roth, so their contributions will go into that traditional bucket. But yeah, it is an option for you. It's, again, too, though, you roll all that money in there, you're supercharging that 401k, but you're also going from 0.04% fees to, 1.5 to 2.25%. Here's the thing, you're not actually going to feel that pain because you're never going to notice it. They just take it out you get a statement, they say, hey, we subtracted this much in the fees. You don't actually really feel that until maybe you look at it and you're like, oh my gosh, dude, I'm paying a lot of fees. Or maybe if you've been working there for 10 or 20 years and you start to add it up and you look at how much in fees you've paid, it's kind of too late, right? So that is an option. You can do it, especially, you go to the federal government. However, eventually, even if you go to the federal government after that, eventually you're going to probably do a second retirement. And guess what? You're still going to be stuck in the same place. What do I do with my TSP after I retire? So everything that we're talking about here kind of applies to that situation as well. IRAs, individual retirement accounts, again, to another option. You can, has the ability to grow within the market. Those are, the difference between the two of those. Your employer is not sponsoring the plan. It's you own it individually. There's some rules about contributions. I'm not going to get into that today. I'll have an entire episode on this where I talk about IRAs and some of the rules around those and what you can and can't do with them. It is another option that you have. It's a retirement account that you own individually. You can roll the money from your TSP or any other accounts, retirement accounts that you may have had, into those accounts. There's the traditional option where you make pre-tax contributions and taxable withdrawals. And then there's the Roth account where you make post-tax contributions and you take that out tax-free. Again, too, we'll dive into some of those in another live episode. So I know we're getting close on time, so I'm going to get through the rest of this here. IRAs, another option. Typically, the fees are a little bit lower. You're looking at probably 1 to 1.5% on average. Some of these companies will say, "Oh yeah, we have these low management fees." Well, again, too, when we talk about the IRAs, there's a lot of different fees that can be attached to these accounts. So we'll uncover those in another episode. It is an option. You own it personally. You can't contribute as much. There's no employer match. But again, too, it's still tied to the market. You can control the investments inside of that as well. But that is another option. And then the last one I wanted to talk about was it's kind of an offshoot of an IRA, and that's annuities. And a lot of people, when they hear annuities, some people are like, I don't even know what an annuity is. More specifically, fixed index annuities. And that has become an increasingly popular option for a lot of people who have retirement accounts where they want to protect the principal. They want to lock in any gains that they have. They want the ability to continue to do guaranteed lifetime income and have low fees, because some of these there are no fee options. So when somebody says TSP has the lowest fees, not quite. They're pretty low, but you can go lower because nothing's lower than no, unless maybe they're paying you a fee. I guess you could get negative fees to where they pay you. But essentially, a fixed index annuity is it's an insurance product. All annuities are insurance products. So you, again, too, your pension is kind of an annuity as well. Survivor benefit plan, that is an annuity. But I'm talking about insurance backed annuities. So you put your money into this fixed index annuity. It's held inside of an IRA. So really the IRA, I remember hearing this, the best way to describe an IRA is it's kind of like a tax wrapper, right? It just tells the IRS how to treat the money that's in the investments inside. So an FIA is an investment inside of an IRA, provides principal protection. So if the market goes down like it is right now, guess what? You don't lose anything. You might not make anything in that during that time period, but you're also not losing anything. And has the opportunity for growth. The growth is tied to an index. However, it's not directly invested in that index. So you get to take advantage of whenever there's growth inside that index, you get to capture some of that growth. And a lot of people say, well, it's not as much as the market. Well, again, too, we talk about some of these fees and everything, you'll see the growth that you think you're getting inside an investment account probably isn't what you're actually getting. And so we'll talk about the different types of returns. Again, too, I outline all that stuff inside the TSP rollover guide, which you can access with the link in the comments. And yeah, you can use it to turn on lifetime income. You can't make contributions to it. There are a couple out there that will allow you to contribute for a few years, but I don't know that that's really worth it. For some of the things that you give up being able to do that. And then there's, you also are subject to a surrender charge. When I was talking about that, the surrender charge is, hey, they incur a cost ensuring that this is a suitable investment for you and getting it in place. And, kind of the thing is they're hoping like, hey, you signed a contract. That's what it is. It's a contract saying that you would leave your money here with us for a certain period of time, because we're going to take that money out, we're going to go invest it, and we're going to give you some of the profit, and we're going to keep some of it too. So if you're not going to leave it here with us long enough to recover our costs, then we're going to take the surrender charge away from you. But yeah, I just wanted to add this in here. So this is just a real quick breakdown here. This is also in the guide where I talk about that, kind of your options and all the things that we discussed here and which ones, are applicable, right? So this is kind of, if you need that quick graphic to say like, oh, okay, maybe this is the best option for me. You can kind of reference this inside that TSP guide. So that's it for today. I will also post this. I'll make a separate post on the Military Money Mistakes LinkedIn page, and I'll post it on mine as well. Just a quick, easy to decipher guide. I talk about some of the contribution limits that have been updated for 2023 in here. So looking forward to seeing you guys next week. Again, too, if you have more questions about this, go get in the portal, look at the TSP rollover guide. I know I sound like a broken record, but sometimes you have to in order to get the point across. I was a chief. Like, that's what I had to do when my guys didn't seem to listen. the link's inside the comments. Again, too, if you'd like to sign up for the beta cohort, the link for that is also in there. And, next week, join me next week, Friday at 1 p.m. We're going to talk about The Power of Zero by David McKnight. So appreciate everybody swinging by, and glad to, have you in here, and see you next week. Thanks.